Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our roundtable today. Together with Adil Yilmaz and Kim Launroad, we will discuss whether to model or to write plain text and the benefits of both ways or even a mixture of both of them. Um, I will start with just briefly introducing the two persons. Kim Launroad, first chair of IREB since about 10 years or so. He will say a few words afterwards. And we have Adil Yilmaz from ASML, who will give a short, let's say, overview what they are doing at ASML with models and text and specifying requirements, designing things, and handing over to Kim for a very brief introduction, please.
Thank you, Stefan, for the nice introduction. My name is Kim Launroad. I'm first chair of IREB, and when I do not participate in roundtables like this one, I teach digital design requirements and software engineering at the University of Applied Science and Arts in Dortmund. And my hobby is really modeling. I love formal specifications, so I'm very pleased that we have a real expert today in our round, Adil. So I hand over to you. Looking forward to our discussion.
I jump in for a second. I forgot to mention, if anyone wants to pose questions, please put them in the chat. I will pick them up and forward to Adil and Kim. Sorry for interrupting. Adil, stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan, and thank you, Kim. That was a nice opportunity for me to tell about also my passion. My name is Adil. I am requirements engineering competence lead at ASML since 2019, and before I was a systems engineer in a defense company in Turkey for electronic warfare systems. So I was always in an environment where requirements is always there. So that's why I love it. But of course, this today is the key thing is just what we need to do about models and then the requirements. So I would like to tell about that as well from the perspective of an engineer within a company who is leading the supplier of photolithography systems for the semiconductor industry, and actually this enabling the world's most advanced chip manufacturing. So with the cutting edge EUV and deep UV technologies, we empower as a company innovation across industries from AI to automotive. So recent things are always there. But pushing the boundaries of Moore's law is the, I think, key challenge. And ASML, most people are now getting to know each other day by day. But actually, it's now headquartered in Netherlands, and we collaborate globally with customers, partners to shape the future of the electronics. So that's in a nutshell ASML, and then myself. So shall I continue with the requirements engineering at ASML, right? So when I first joined ASML, it's actually that was kind of a group of people trying to deploy the requirements engineering process and then the supportive requirements management tool. But actually, since the beginning of ASML, of course, there should be requirements and there should be the design. And in terms of requirements engineering, there are tons of different things ongoing. So one is actually how we really pay attention to the requirements, because ASML and the lithography in semiconductor industry is very fast, and time to market is one of the most important thing. But because of that pace, things required to be set as prioritized depending on their timing. By the way, I'm hearing an echo. Is it because of me?
Sure.
No? Okay. Let me continue. So as a competence, our role is trying to define what the requirements engineering process is and deploy to the whole ASML, and then also making sure that the requirements management tool is in place. So requirements are important, but also needs to be written well formed, so that this complex machine needs to be in a good quality at the end when we deliver the product. And thousands of people, and now when I joined, it was 20,000, and now it is 40,000 people all around the world. And then nearly half of them is dealing with the right hand side of the V, which is the development of machines. That means this requires a proper communication. And then requirements are, yes, textual, and it requires to be well written so that it will communicate the intention. And here, if I just kind of connect a couple of things, maybe some of the audience has known the theory, red card theory. The red card theory is actually saying that, for instance, if I ask Kim regarding to before coming to this session or maybe today, how many red cards did he saw before coming, any like maybe at home or just go outside, most probably he cannot directly tell me. If he is, then I can say what are the number of blue cards. So that's kind of something. But actually, if I gave Kim 50 euros per red card he spotted, of course he will tell me the exact number because there is an incentive there. So the reason that I told this story is actually there are all opportunities are coming and passing. So that means we are, of course, selectively paying attention to the things that are told to us. These are important stuff. So our job at ASMR right now, try to help our colleagues to pay more attention to requirements, because that's kind of the heart of the system, and then paying more attention to make it clear in a good quality shape so that it will help them in the future. That's because it's kind of a message for the future to help them to communicate what they wanted. So in that sense, why I'm telling this story, because this big company has a lot of different variations of understanding, but at the end we are doing something to build the most advanced machine. So we need to collaborate. In a quick in a nutshell, I can say this. So then, if I talk about modeling, that is something a different thing within ASML, because if we talk about models within the design, that's of course all over the ASML. So from CAD designs to modeling electronic circuits, all are there. But if you talk about system modeling, which is actually the kind of sister of requirement, then it becomes something a little bit new for ASML, because system modeling is just in the last years it started to start the modeling from the perspective of logical and physical decompositions. So then, because also we embrace the Arcadia methodology, and of course based on Capella, but actually this is becoming something more and more advanced, starting from the system design, like RFLP topics. But in order to model the system, and then everybody should know that actually when the systems are becoming more complex, modeling things are becoming harder and harder, because you cannot model if you spend time for the last 10 years. Of course it is possible, but when you start modeling, then you should first start selecting what is critical for you. And that's why at ASMR right now, the models are based on, of course, first the most critical items, which are related to the performance. But then, of course, it's becoming more and more rich every day, depending on how we would like to manage that information. At the end, this is related to communicating the information to the relevant parties to manage the complexity. So if we do not understand what each of the artifacts, it could be a model element or it could be a requirement element, if it is not saying what we intend to communicate, it doesn't matter whether we are using model or requirements. So that's the most important thing we should be focusing on, because it starts with education. Yes, requirements can be written well if they are educated, but then within any chaos, I would say either it's modeling or requirements. After the education, execution is the most important part. So you need to execute so that this will be ended up with a model or with a requirement set. But then there is one more thing left. After the execution, you consistently check what has been executed. That means for any complex systems, any complex organizations, those consistent checks will help us to land the topic, which is like models or the requirement sets, land properly so that it will be used also in the future. So that means, from my perspective, is in a nutshell, requirements and the models should be living in together. It's a hybrid world, because because the communication is the most important thing that we need to rely on. And some people can easily use the model and understand. But for instance, non-technical people should be also using some information set. And then when they come up with the model, if they are not able to understand what the model intend to share or communicate, then problem starts. The same is when you have a set of requirements. If it is not well written, if the context is not shared properly, and if people who are going to use that start assuming, or like maybe the ambiguity leads them to understand differently, then again the problems are starting. So in a nutshell, this is kind of where I am staying. So in this world within ASML, also with different parts of work that I am in, currently the hybrid environment is something that we can work for.
Yeah, very interesting. I have so many questions. I'm not sure where to start, but I think for me, the first point you mentioned is you are working in a company that builds, on the one hand, physical machines, producing all the technology we need every day, and on the other hand, there's software running on these machines.
True.
And what I wonder is, what I see from my practice is that people that are used to build physical machines are used to talk and to draw models. You mentioned plans, electronic circuits, etc. They are trained. And you also mentioned that in the system or in the software world, we really struggle with adopting models. It's really a change process. What is your idea why it's so difficult for us as software people to really go deeper into the modeling and in the visual understanding? Do you have an idea what are the core problems from your experience?
If I understand you correctly, software people is kind of struggling to understand models, you're saying?
Yeah, adopting models as a daily technique. I see many people writing code. They
Yeah,
love writing code. I see some people that love to write big documents,
yeah,
specification, requirements
yeah.
documents, and we tend to go to the more agile approach, preferring user stories as a kind of promise for communication. But somewhere in between, I have the feeling that many people don't go into the direction of really modeling, really planning, because they feel it's not natural to think about software in terms of models. Would you agree, or would you say you have different
Yeah.
experience?
Actually, in our software teams, they deeply use the UML, plant UML stuff like sequencing or diagramming, etc. So to be able to understand what the software element is going to do, or the behavior of that is not something that ASML is against, or that is not against anything. There are people, different maturity levels. I can easily say that, actually, because of the variety of the maturity levels of understanding, or maybe supporting the idea on what they have done in the past versus what are the modern things coming. this is kind of resistance to change. And this every organization that I have worked, also my friends around the world, they're all saying the same. When you are changing something, it should be resonating with the pain points they have in their life. If it is not linked to that, of course, there will be a reluctance. And then reluctance is just changing the habits. So if they're changing the habits, it should be really, really helping them, time saving, or the issues are resolved. That has to be really, we have also the similar things. Even sometimes when we are discussing about traceability related things, we are coming up, hey, why you are not doing that? And then sometimes we are hearing nicely they are saying that I didn't see the value yet. So there are different perspectives on this, but in our case, software people are actually kind of close to the modeling, but actually in the UML part. But when you think about the whole system modeling and software elements in the system model, we are not there yet. So it's not becoming or being against or other thing, but because the reluctance and then not able, maybe the benefit is not easily to see in the short term. And these kind of things need investment, commitment and investment to be able to see the benefit for the future. It's not a short term, we all know. But in this kind of environments, especially organizations, people who are going to change would like to see the short-term benefit. That is the, I think, pitfall.
Mhm.
May I ask something then? Do you think that whether they accept or not is different based on the difficulty level of the modeling language you use? So is it, if you use more formal models, is it then more reluctant the people, or do you then rather than if you use lightweight modeling techniques?
I think it depends on the necessity. And if they see there are a lot of people still writing the textual requirements next to that, because they would like to communicate with people who can understand, like, for instance, the plant UML. I'm talking about software, by the way. And then if they are going to communicate this thing, it will be easier for them to add that thing and then share. But when it comes to only work with models, I think there is time for ASML, because that reluctance actually is just changing for everyone. So it cannot be done overnight. That's why also for different topics within ASML, especially linked to requirements engineering, there should be, we call maturity plateaus. So not everybody can jump from words requirements to system modeling with SysML, for instance. There is not possibility to jump from 0 to 100. And then every maturity plateau has its own pains, gains, and way forward. So there should be acceptance from the users that if they choose the methodology to move forward, and if something, they have to invest. And then in order to invest, they would like to see the value. If it is a short term, it's easy. If it's a long term, it's a matter of time how we can have people first, the like innovators or early adopters, to show the benefit. It's everywhere. Right? So it's organizational change. And then later on, if the benefit is seen, then next step by accepting the pains of that maturity plateau.
Yeah, perfectly understandable. When assume you see a group that is working, let's say, only on text base,
Yeah.
what would be your first argument to say, well, let's talk about modeling? Maybe a team that is really focused on text, on big specification documents. Assume I'm the person. What would be your first question, your first advice to me to say, well, have a look into whatever direction of model?
I think before even asking any question regarding to model, I would ask how actually they are managing the requirements in terms of commonality and reuse, and in terms of quality perspectives. So if your requirements, because again, that this is a maturity plateau. So I need to understand where they are. And then if you are able to understand where they are, that is one very important thing. And then the second thing is we need to definitely understand what they are doing, why they are doing, sorry, what they are doing, how they are doing, and then why they are doing like that. So that means for us, their process on grasping the information and managing the communication with what information. And the next question is whether they have any pain points with respect to this way of working, whether they are creating information set, and then the creation of the like development of a requirement is just not consistent enough. So from that consistency, then I can see already, I can start seeing already the problems if they can share with me. Because some people would like to stay in some maturity levels because it's hard for them to switch. But then if they stay there for a month of time, then they start seeing the pitfalls or pains of that maturity level. It cannot be that quick. And then I start asking questions. Would it be better to make it consistent? Because when you start using models, you are enforced to use some methodologies or techniques or the tools, enforcements to do something. You cannot, for instance, accidentally do something regarding to an attribute of a model. So then this will help me to understand where they are and then how I can steer the topic. But it cannot be directly something a person who are textual writing requirements for 20 years, whether good or not, the quality of the requirement or traceability of the information. But at the end, this will lead me to a position to steer a topic. For example, very simply, you're writing perfect requirements, but you are not that much paying attention to the to traceability. Then that is also already a problem for the modeling. So if you start, if it is a box only, if you don't have the traceability in mind, that will also create a problem, even chaos, because then they will start feeling frustrated and they directly stop using it. So that kind of things are very important in terms of landing new things to the community. So we also have different challenges to land new the modern requirements engineering capabilities, and that has the similar essence, I would say.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I mean, what I saw in my practice very often is that people say we know our systems. We are forced to document requirements for legal reasons. You mentioned traceability and certification, etc. And they typically say, well, it's working. We really don't see the benefit because we know what we are doing. I always say, well, change people in your team and your knowledge is lost, so you will be in trouble in the future. But a core argument that I very often see is that teams or companies are not willing to invest into creating the models because they see that the processes are running, they are producing products. ASML is, of course, producing tremendous machines and making great profit. So what would you say in terms of this economic argument? How would you try to convince me if I say, well, it's working and I'm not willing to spend the money?
So I think this starts with really understanding what are the stakeholders are, because I recently I recently read a couple of articles regarding to the complex machines, because if you are building small stuff, that's very easy to convince people because that will increase the amount of issue, decrease the amount of issues immediately, and it's manageable. And then you can manage people if the amount of people are less. But when you think about highly complex systems, I think models improve traceability and consistency. That is, I think, for sure proven. But for stakeholder-heavy projects, I think textual requirements remain essential for engagement and I would say even legal compliance. So that requires definitely understanding the stakeholders. and then I would definitely say link the pain points, and then if I am able to solve that pain points with step ups to modeling, then they will directly grasp. Because what I love at ASML, it's a challenging environment, yes, but collaboration is one of the key things. And then if you resonate with the problems, they are really open. So this matter of fact is it should land. But when you are dealing with a complex machine, of course, there will be firefighting modes or escalations around. And then that's a matter of fact how this thing is going to be prioritized. If you are just now in front of me with a relaxed mode and do not have any issues on the timing, then we can talk hours to make sure that this is landed properly. But if you have an escalation on delivering something in a week, that's not a thing. So that's a long journey that is similar in the requirements engineering. And then in the future, what I would say, models, I think when ASML is also going to adopt models day by day, it will reduce the ambiguity. That is one of the, I think, the most important benefit of the models. And then it will start supporting formal verification. So, but they can, in the end, if we just only stick to that, they can eliminate or even make maybe frustrated non-technical stakeholders. I think that is the thing that I have concern, that it cannot be one or another.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a very important term with respect to non-technical stakeholders. At least I've seen many projects that say our customers, our users and stakeholders, they are not willing to read these strange pictures that you are drawing. I'm exaggerating a bit, but when you're not used to UML or SysML notation, it sometimes feels a bit strange to outsiders. And maybe this is also an argument for the other perspective I mentioned. I think when you build software or systems, it's rather difficult to develop a mental model and an understanding. If I build a machine, I have rather physical plans. Even digital circuits are at least somehow related to the reality. You are wiring things, you are putting microprocessors, etc., on a board. So you have a really physical thing. And what I also got from your explanation, it's really important to explain to people that you can build software in the same way you build a physical thing. You have to create a picture in your mind, you have to create a mental model, an image, an understanding, and not only use the language as a kind of medium to talk about it. It's a bit like reading big books like Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's a fantastic thing, and if you see the movie, you get pictures in your head, you get a better understanding of how it's working. And when you manage complexity management and really grasping the thing, I really believe that models are really important for beginners. Do you have experiences how people go into new projects and use models for orientation or better understanding the systems they are building?
I think what I can say, since I joined ASML, pictures of any type of any part of the machine is quite obviously seen every file that I was given, like from presentations to some documentation. Even it's a kind of requirement specification document, it has enormous amount of picture for people to understand what they are looking for. Actually, it is there already, as you stated. And then I think, if I'm not wrong, for me, I'm definitely that kind of person, I can easily remember the thing that I see as a picture than a text. That is normal. And human brains should be working like that, as engineers should be working like that as well. But when it comes to understanding, and also because requirements are like contracts, and then contracts are something like you need to really, really pay attention to, so that it will either help you or it can cause problems to you. So that's why when it comes to agree on a contract, people are a little bit reluctant to make it only with pictures, because not everybody is going to understand the same thing. That's, I think I need to refer to the one first statement that I did. For instance, if I talk Turkish right now in 10 seconds, most probably a couple of friends of mine from my network will start laughing, but then you will never understand anything. It's similar. So this is both kind of communication. If I draw a good stuff, and then if there is kind of some naming convention on the model elements, people start thinking about what is it for. But the rest, if they are not able to understand the connections or how it is the colors of the intended element, and what does that mean for, then it becomes problematic for other people. So I think that is the main thing. Again, I need to come to the communication. If I learn how to talk Dutch, this could be also a Dutch or German. I can speak a little bit. Then it could be a German language and then a German session, and then we will only see the German people. So that is the same thing.
Yeah, I really like this image of German, Turkish, English language. And when it comes to young people that want to build a career in your company or in your domain, what would be your recommendation to start with? What languages should they learn, and where should they go to learn the language? I mean, when you're going to Turkey or to the Netherlands, you of course to some extent learn Dutch or learn Turkish because you somehow have to read the signs, and
Yeah.
you recognize some familiar words and at least believe you understand what you're reading. But
Yeah.
when we consider modeling or the different modeling languages as a country, UML country, SysML country, etc., what travel route would you recommend? Where to start to really learn the language?
Oh, sorry. I am now back.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
That's a good question. Actually, what you refer actually is kind of some of the parts of your sentence is linked to enforcement. So if I need to learn, because if I don't learn, it will impact my life. That's definitely a no-go for not learning. And so you need to learn that. I think that we can stick to that stuff. So in that sense, without going to first directly models, what I saw entire my career from starting as a junior system engineer after university, because I'm an electrical and electronics engineer, and I have never taught regarding to system thinking and design thinking. And if I were 15 years or even more than 50, 20 years ago, will tell myself, start learning design thinking and system thinking. Because when you start learning that, you immediately see that you should have those capabilities regarding to modeling. Because then you start seeing the world with different views. But that's not taught to me. And then I personally taught myself how I need to do that. But now I am not in a system engineering world, part of it, requirements engineering. So that's the first thing. And after that, I would say, because now I can link, because the topic is now come to that thing, I can bridge that. I'm also closely working with AI initiatives, including IREB community. And also within ASML, knowledge management is quite important. But the future is we need to also be able to talk with this artificial intelligence thing, right? So artificial intelligence will help us to translate information. That means that will be easy in the future to translate the model into a understandable textual language, and the other way around, from textual language to the models. So that means you need to learn a language, or you need to have a company and knowledge that will stick to the AI as well. So that means with AI, artificial intelligence, and the language should operate accordingly. What I would then say is it should be based on, because I'm also now getting trained with the SysML version 2, which is also based on CareML. I think that would be a great investment, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, AI is a really big topic. For the moment, I would like to say to stay in the beginning. You mentioned design thinking and system thinking, and I think also maybe they are also some kinds of country, because when you like
Yes.
or Turkish or Germany, you have to enter the country of system thinking and to properly learn to communicate, etc., etc. Could you explain a bit more to our audience what system thinking means, what the core skills are
Yeah.
that you learn there?
Maybe I can say. Um, Maybe it will be good to make sure it's kind of a metaphor, like you stated, then maybe it will be easy to explain.
Mhm.
So system thinking, I would say, is country as an ecosystem.
Mhm.
Okay, and the metaphor we can use here is just if we imagine a country as a complex ecosystem with interconnected regions, resources, and governance structures. Huh? So that's the thing. And if you then think about the focus, system thinking looks at the relationship, the feedback loops, um, long-term kind of sustainability. It asks how the policies in one region affect others. Or maybe what happens if we change the energy system? How does it ripple through the economy, health, and environment? This is actually then we can say that system thinking is a holistic view and ideal for complex and adaptive systems. That's why the future is all complex. There will not be very simple systems anymore. Everything connected to everything, even we can say Internet of Things. But there is a weakness because it can be slow to act because it emphasizes analysis and interdependencies. Uh, when you think about design thinking, kind of we need to think a country as a city planner's project. And then we can use a metaphor like think of designing a new city district within that country. So focus is design thinking emphasizes human-centered innovation. So like rapid prototyping and maybe empathy, which means what do citizens need in their daily lives? This is design thinking. And I really like the example I saw in the IREB webpage with respect to the sporting and then the tool, the electronics that will help them to be fit. So that's kind of thinking about from the design perspective and a user perspective. So how we can create delightful experiences in housing and transport, the public spaces. That is becoming more like the design thinking metaphor. And it is the strength is creative, iterative, and as I said, user focused. But there will be, of course, weakness as well, because when you only have the design thinking, there will be kind of a weakness of we may overlook the systematic constraints if applied in isolation. So that's why actually I would say um, the system thinking ensures the city fits into national ecosystem like energy grid, transport network, and design thinking ensures the city works for its people. That's how I can explain with the easiest way without deep diving the technical definition of both.
Yeah, I think very good explanation. I really like the view of getting boxes and structures and relationships. I mean, system thinking for me is really a precise science, understanding, grasping the world, understanding relationships. You mentioned complexity, and as you said, design thinking is really about using this complexity to build something useful. And I
Yeah,
think this is the interesting, from my point of view, the interesting spectrum that also software people must bridge. On the one hand side, you have this rather structured, precise source code programming, which you can of course express in words and sentences. But
yeah,
on the other hand, you have this need to build something useful, something creative, and you have this design thinking, stylish way of working. And at least from my feeling, for many years we only built very simple machines, very simple pieces of software. You also mentioned this in your explanations. And now software and its capabilities is growing to a level of complexity, system thinking, that we no longer can grasp in terms of words. Or when we use words, we come up with specifications like Lord of the Rings, many thousand pages, very difficult to read, and we need a famous person to create a movie for us, or maybe an AI that is creating a movie. But how does this resonate with you, the relationship between this creativity and this need for structure? Do you think we are on the right track here?
I would say one thing about that, because as I said, you also told about these two things are like different countries. So, but also as an engineer, I would like to travel and then try to see when because without seeing the new things, you cannot know whether it is going to help you or not. So this is similar if I directly connect to the model. If I do not try, I cannot directly understand the benefit. So in that sense, I would say, because we started this topic kind of an advice to the young generation, they have time, and then they should be using their time very efficiently to understand what is coming for them for the future, from the future. So that means if I'm saying design thinking and system thinking, if it resonates something, if not, I should be, if I'm told like that, I will be committing to search what is it and how it can help me in my maybe academic journey or academic plus business or career in that area. So that should be working like that. You should not be staying in one country, I would say.
Yeah, that's a very good picture.
At least travel, go back and forth. You can go back to, but without trying, you cannot understand.
Yeah,
That's what
you
I
need
would
to be
like to tell.
somehow European. We have also many countries and many cultures and are very successful, hopefully, by integrating them. One thing that I want to come back to is you mentioned AI and all the power of these new tools. At my university, I sometimes hear my students saying that, well, in the future, AI will do all these jobs. So why should I care about modeling? I could just prompt create me a data model or create me an architecture from this and this statement. What would be your answer to the young people on this question?
Okay. Why I'm laughing? Because my wife's nephew's around the university age, and we have really deep discussions about that. So I cannot directly tell in 10 years from now this is going to happen. Maybe it is. Can I change it? I don't know. I cannot, most probably, because I am in the now. And by having concerns on the future, that will make them really unhappy. That's the first advice. Don't concern about the future all the day, all the seconds that they have. Second, yes, it may be in the future that you can have a prompt that will create a design or model. Even we are even trying right now, if you provide the contextual information, how we can generate the requirement text, which is easier than creating the model right now, at least. But 5 years ago, that may not be the case because we are not trusting. Right now, still we are not trusting. For instance, I asked a question recently in one of the competence days within SML. Where did you not trust? Where do you not trust to AI in requirements engineering? Answer is human safety. We cannot trust now. But then this is kind of an understanding. So first, what you can do now, and then what you would like to do in upcoming a year, and then try to do as good as possible that you, because you need to first enjoy what you are doing. It's not about concerning about the future. There are things that we can control, which is we call circle of impact, similar in organizations or also in our life. So that means for me is if they are thinking like that, I would recommend them to stop thinking like that and the focus on learning. Learning, then use the AI to help you learn in an efficient way. Because sometimes learning is very hard in some cases because you cannot find the information that you wanted. So you can even build things that you can trust. So only rely on, I'm just exaggerating, MIT, University of Munich, or any technical university data, and then I would like to learn the system thinking. So that will help you to constrain what you would like to reach. So just this is a company right now, right? So please use as an assistant to be someone who is equipped with this capability. Focus on that. Next, then maybe 5 years later, it will be enormously capable. Then plan ahead. So I cannot, for myself, even say in 5 years I will lose my job. I don't care now because I didn't lose my job. I still have a lot of things to do, a lot of people to convince, a lot of people to make happy because when they start requirements engineering and all kind of advanced things, they start benefiting from that. I cannot concern myself for the 10 years from now. Just be happy for now. You
Yeah,
cannot control that 10 years later.
yeah,
Be equipped.
that's really true. I like your line of thought when it comes to trust. I think this is a very, very important thing. And trust for me is not only trusting you as a person. I mean, we trusted you to show up today. We wrote an email and said, well, we meet at 4:45 to do this great roundtable. So trust in this sense. But I think there is another form of trust that originates from understanding what the machine's doing. And you mentioned human safety. I think safety is a really critical topic. And trusting a machine, a car driving on its own, that it's doing the right stuff is really, really challenging. And at least I think trust comes also from understanding what the machine is doing and understanding its output, which brings us back to the great picture of the language and the country. Yeah. I can trust the machine only if I speak their language. I understand the models, I know the backgrounds. And so my position here would be we need to learn to code, to model anyhow, to understand what the machine is doing. And then the machine, I like the Steve Jobs saying that the computer is a bicycle for the mind. It amplifies your strength. And I think the biggest misunderstanding that you also mentioned in your answer is that many people take AI for a car. You sit in the car and it drives you somewhere. This is sometimes good, sometimes not. But if you use it in this way, you miss the landscape, you don't understand what you're doing, you are not orienting yourself. And when you use the machine as a bicycle and do it for yourself, but get amplified, you get a better engineer, a better designer, a better requirements engineer. Would you agree with this bicycle image, or would you prefer the car?
I think right now, bicycle is a great example. As I said, there is a time passed since these new popular large language models are exposed. But actually, machine learning, large language models, these are not new things, like not last 5 years, most probably 30 to 40 years. Even I think there is an article 1950s about that. So what has changed from that time to time is exponentially changed. So right now it's a bicycle, and then we are just strengthening ourselves by using that. But also there are studies, if you rely on that much, then we will start losing our creative thinking, design thinking, system thinking capabilities. That's also, I think, psychologically shown. So we should be really using responsibly the AI part right now. But in the upcoming years, we will see that there will be automations. The automations of modeling, automations of requirements development, system development. And I don't want to make this talk AI talk, but at the end, it will become something that we need to adapt. 20 years ago, there are some jobs, there are some roles, there are some really important people that are doing things in their way of working. Now, after 10 years, they disappear. What they do is just they change something. In the upcoming years, this is going to happen again, changing things in our lives, changing roles, finding new things. But way later, there are things that again we will need to think about how we need to think, work, and then live.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Excuse me, may I jump in? Because we are, in fact, moving a bit towards AI,
yeah,
which, by the way, will be addressed by IREB soon with the AI for RE study guide. But I've got a question from the audience. Gareth Roger is asking, there is many times a difference, a subtle one, between the actual world being modeled with requirements and the solution being modeled in with requirements. Um, is that an issue, that there is a difference, that people start mixing it, or what do you think? Is it important to separate between?
oh, did you get the question, Kim?
Yes, yes. What's important to separate between the real world and the
I lost
requirement?
connection. So back again. Sorry. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I mean, I just repeated your question, and maybe I start and Adil jumps in. I
Yeah.
think it's really important to clearly separate between requirements and the actual solution that you want to build. I mean, this is the typical difference between goals, objectives, requirements, and the actual design. But when it comes, at least from my experience, when it comes to really building systems, this difference somehow gets lost because people switch so fast back and forth between requirements and the solution. And it's sometimes, at least in my experience, it's really a pain to get people back from the solution to the requirements part, to really talk about what you want to build and not how you build it. But I think, at least in theory, it's important to separate both perspectives. But in practical work, at least what I see always people jumping back and forth between requirements and solutions.
Yeah, I think fully agree because that's matter of fact. Like right now, people are mixing up what's the requirement and what's the design or design decision, right? What and the how part. That is the same thing. And then if we are able to capture what the system must do, not how it will be doing, that's kind of either textual requirements or the model of the system what it must do. And then from modeling the solution still is something because you need to define how the system will fulfill those requirements. Kind of the focus could be the architecture, components, interfaces, implementation details, like maybe the artifacts like class diagrams, sequence diagrams, state machines, architecture models. So that will enable design validation, simulation, and implementation planning. So that is, I think, when people start mixing up like requirements, what, and design or design decisions, how, that is natural that they can still mix requirements or models in the system and then models in the solution. So that means the goal is for both is one is for the requirement part, ensure shared understanding, traceability for design decisions, and but for the modeling of solution is enable the design validation, simulation, and implementation planning. So that's what I can say.
Yeah, I think a very good answer. I mean, with respect to timing, I would suggest one last question to Adil, because we are on the round table here. What would be your recommendation to IREB as a next step in developing education programs? I'm the EXCO, I'm the chair. You now have a Christmas wish. You can say what you want and we will see what's happening. What would you want IREB to do as a next important product in the area of requirements modeling and documentation?
Since I am involved, it's a wish also that IREP can support requirements engineers as the role, but also people who have requirements engineering role, how to deal this requirements engineering tasks with the support of AI,
Yeah.
because that should not be skipped. And I know since I am involved also, if we are able to achieve something that is beneficial for the community, that will definitely speed up their engagement.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a very great wish. And to close the session, I hand over
Thank you,
to
Kim.
Yeah, thanks both of you, Adil and Kim, for this lively discussion. We got some kudos as well from the audience, and talk to you soon. Thank you for this talk.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye.